Hey there, my name is Chris Acton with Acton Creative, and this is A Handwoven Experience. And today's episode is titled Buying a Loom Compilation. Because, friends, I see you. You've taken your first weaving class, you've really fallen in love with it, and you're thinking, I think I need my own loom at home. I need my own beautiful loom to work on whenever I want. So I don't have to go to the studio. I don't have to go to a friend's house. I'm not at the mercy of someone else's hours. I can work on it whenever I want. But buying a loom is a unique experience, and the average person has no frame of reference for how to make a good decision when it comes to looms. So I want to make sure that you are as prepared as possible and you have given it some thought and you make a great decision and you love your loom purchase. So I have pulled together 3 videos all surrounding the topic of buying a loom. The very first video is all about kind of the general start to the decision-making process. How do you narrow down what kind of loom you want and where to find it? I give you some things to chew on there. The second video is all about evaluating a used loom. In so many cases, you will end up with a used loom. There's so many that need a good home. However, it's not brand new, and that comes with its own set of challenges. So in the second video, I walk you through what to look for as you are determining, is this my new to me used loom? And in the third video, it's all about replacement parts. You see, with a used loom, it could be a great loom. It's got good bones, it's ready to go. However, there's a part or two that needs a little TLC or needs replacing. So in the third video, I kind of give you some direction as to what to look for and where to go when you are putting the final touches on your new to you loom so that you can be weaving, because that is what we want, friends. More weavers in the world. So if all that's standing in your way is making a few decisions about what loom to get, let me help you. I'm excited. Please let me know what loom you end up with, and we will all celebrate together. In the meantime, enjoy the Buying a Loom compilation. Happy weaving. Hey there, my name is Chris Acton with Acton Creative, and this is A Handwoven Experience. The episode title for today is, So, you want to buy a loom? I think it's so exciting when you get to that point when you are ready. You are ready to purchase a loom of your own so that you have it in your house with you all the time. That is just a pivotal moment for any weaver. So I want to help you along as you are going through the process of procuring your loom. So today's episode is 3 of my recommendations for how to purchase the right loom for you. So here's my first recommendation, is to get clear, or as clear as you can, about what loom you are looking for. Now, to do this, I've got 3 little qualifications, or questions, I should say. Number 1, what do you want to make? If you already know that you want to make big old rugs, that helps you narrow down what kind of loom you're looking for. Number 2, how much space do you have? Are you in a tiny apartment with 3 roommates, or do you have a sprawling ranch where space is no issue? Number 3, what is your budget? Did you just get an inheritance and you're like, okay, I'm gonna blow it all in a loom? Great. Or are you pitching pennies and you want to do it the most cost-effective way possible? Those 3 questions should really kind of help you narrow it down to exactly what kind of loom are you looking for. Recommendation number 2, if at all possible, test drive a few looms. Now, you may be thinking, okay, I don't know how to do that. How do I find looms to test drive? Well, one of the easy ways is to take a class, because so many of these weaving schools are going to have a variety of looms, and you can sit down and kick it around. See if you like the motion. See if you like how the brake works. How do the shafts lift and lower? Try all of that out. You could also attend a conference they will always have looms for you to try, mostly because they want to sell you one. But you can absolutely sit down and try a whole series of looms in a conference setting. But you can also just ask around who else in your community, in your area, might have a loom, or their Aunt Laura has a loom, or something to that effect. But it is, I think, really important to spend a minute with the loom before you purchase, if at all possible, of course, because there may be little things that annoy you that you wouldn't have anticipated. Just as a thought. Recommendation number 3, do not limit yourself on where you're looking for looms. Of course, you can go straight to the manufacturer and order one from their website or however you want to do that. Of course you can. But I love recommending getting used looms. And that opens up the gates a lot, doesn't it? Because you can find used looms on Facebook Marketplace, on eBay, on Etsy. There's all kinds of options for where you can find used looms. Look for estate sales. Do you have a local weavers guild that you could reach out and be like, hey, I'm in the market for a loom? Even if it's not local weavers guild, what's the closest weavers guild? Because I know from experience that with our local weavers guild, we get folks that call us, I bet, 4 or 5 times a year that say, hey, I got a loom, so-and-so passed away, we're trying to move it. Do you have anyone who's interested? Weavers guilds are a font of information, that is for sure. So think kind of outside the box. What are all the options for where you could find a loom? Don't just get kind of caught up in, well, I have to buy a new one straight from the manufacturer. Now you can, there's nothing wrong with that. However, there's a lot of really beautiful, lovely looms out there waiting for a good home. Shoot, some of these places where you're taking classes, they may sell you the loom right there. So don't limit yourself. Yeah, keep an open mind of how this loom could come into your life. And before you know it, I'm guessing you'll be making beautiful fabric at your own house on your own loom. So just to recap, here are my 3 recommendations for buying a loom. Number 1, get very clear on what kind of loom you are looking for. If you know you're never gonna do a tapestry, don't just strike that off, right? If you know that you have a small space, you're probably gonna want a table loom. If you know that you wanna do big rugs, you just look for a bigger loom, like a big rug loom, right? Something heavy, yeah. Recommendation number 2, if at all possible, try out some looms. Just take a class, attend someplace where other weavers will be, and try out some looms because you may be surprised by what you like and don't like. And number 3, don't limit yourself when you actually are starting to look for a loom to purchase. Doesn't have to be new. And once you start to think about a used loom, there's a lot of options out there. Now, something I've done as an extra little perk for my Acton Creative Insider membership is I have compiled a list of the major loom manufacturers in North America with their website so that you can see who is who and what kind of looms they are creating. So if you're in the market for a loom and you're just kind of dipping your toe in and you want to learn more about it, it's a great reason to join the Acton Creative Insiders because you'll have a list right there at your fingertips to start the process. By the way, please let me know what loom you end up with. I love hearing stories about people's looms, so do not hesitate to share in the comments that your first loom was fill in the blank. It's very exciting. All right, friends, that's what I've got for you this week. Happy shopping to you, and I can't wait to see what you'll create on your brand new loom. Have a great week. Happy weaving. Hey there, my name is Chris Acton with Acton Creative, and this is A Handwoven Experience. And in today's episode, I'm going to bring you the used loom buying checklist. You see, there's a lot of used looms out there, and they're going to need some good homes. But as a beginner, I can understand how overwhelming that is to look at a loom and be like, I don't know, is it a good loom? So in today's episode, I'm going to give you a short but effective list of things to look for as you are checking out a used loom and deciding whether it comes home with you or not. So the first thing to look over is the overall structure. Now, 99% of the looms you're going to look at are going to be wood. So you want to look at the wood to make sure it's not warped or cracked. You're going to have 2 beams in the front and the back. So you have like a taller one here and a shorter one, right? And then in the back, you have kind of a mirror image. So no matter what kind of loom you're looking at, they're going to have 2 in the front and 2 in the back to evaluate. So just look them over, make sure they're in good shape. And also be sure to check the kind of crossbars because it needs to hold this whole structure together. So start there, friends, and decide, is everything, does it look like it's still sturdy? Is it going to function well? Is it going to fall apart easily? We don't want any of that. So check out the overall structure first. Next up, I want you to take a look at the moving parts. Now, here's what I mean. In any loom, you need some way to basically squish your weft yarns. Those are the yarns that are in your shuttle, the ones going back and forth. You need a way to squish them into place. It's not very official, I know, but that's in essence what you're doing. You need to put them in place, and your beater bar is the guide to do that, and it's going to move forward and back. That is the motion. So move it around, see if it moves easily. Make sure there's no problems with it. Look at the actual structure of the beater bar. How does it look? If that looks great, awesome. Next, we need to look at the shafts in the loom. Now, this whole episode is really geared towards a multi-shaft loom because that's my specialty. So that means a 4-shaft or an 8-shaft or more technically. But these shafts in the middle here, then, we need to make sure they're going to move up and down easily and smoothly. That's the whole idea. So check out these guys. Make sure the frames themselves are in good shape and they're going to hold together. And then make sure that whatever mechanism you're using to lift and lower them is working well too. On a floor loom like this, you're going to have pedals down below that are called treadles. But on a table loom, you're going to have a series of levers, either in the middle in the front or off to one side. So play with them, check them out, make sure that everything's moving and everything looks like it's going to work as it should be. So these lift and lower very smoothly. Next on our list is to check out all the stuff that's in the moving parts. So first of all, let's track back to our beater bar. In the beater bar, you need to have a reed. Now, the good news about buying a used loom is that it's probably going to have a reed because that means that someone actually did a project on it, because you have to have a reed for a project. So check out this piece here in the middle. This is called a reed. Here, I pulled one out so you could see a little more. This is a reed right here. In great news, these are very easily replaceable. So if this reed in here is really, really rusty, or if it looks like the tines have been bent a lot, if this doesn't look like it's in good shape, that's not the end of the world. You can replace this piece. So check it out and see what you're working with here as far as the reed goes, the guts of the beater bar here. If it's not in good shape, it's not the end of the world. If it's a good loom otherwise, just plan to buy a replacement reed. Next up, let's talk about the heddles here. These little metal guys, minor metal at least, these little guys here that live in the shafts, just like this right here, these guys, these are called heddles. Now, like I said, minor metal, but they come in all kinds of materials. And depending on how old the loom is you're looking at, it could even be like a string heddle. So make sure to check out the heddles and get an idea of what you're working with. Are they in good shape? Is the material still okay? And just know that this is also something that you can replace if you need to. And in better news even, if you find a loom that has metal heddles, but for you, you start to feel like that's really heavy for your loom, it's hard to actually press the lever to get them to go up and down, you can replace all these with something called Texsolve, which is like a nylon, very lightweight. It's also quieter. So you have options. You could also vice versa. If you like the heavier the weight of the metal, great, go for it. My point being is that heddles are also something that you can replace. But as you're looking in the interior here of your shafts, make sure you're checking out these rails here because they also need to be in good shape. They need to be straight. They need to do their job, which means that these heddles can slide back and forth on them with ease. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the guts that are the parts that are in your shafts as well as the parts that are in the beater bar. And lastly, you want to take a look at the braking system. Now, with any kind of loom, you need some way to keep these yarns tight so you need a braking system. And this is a little harder to check just as you're evaluating a loom, but at least look it over and make sure it looks like it's in working order. For instance, mine is just a little ratchet and pawl system in the front here, and then I have something in the back as well that helps kind of hold everything together. And like I said, if you're just evaluating it, especially if it doesn't have a project on it, that can be hard to determine if it's a great braking system or not. But mostly, I like to just suggest that you just make sure nothing looks, broken, janky, that it looks like it's actually going to hold together. And some of the parts, like I said, if you're mechanically inclined, some of them could be replaced, of course, as well. But just look over the braking system and make sure you see how it works and you're comfortable with that specific system on the loom. So let's go over our list one more time really quickly. As you're looking over a used loom, start with the overall structure. How does it look? Is the wood in good shape? It needs to hold your project and not fall apart. That is the big thing, friends. We don't need a loom that's going to fall apart. So check the overall system and make sure that the structure, and make sure that it's in good shape. Secondly, check the moving parts. So look at your beater bar, make sure it moves forward and back gracefully and easily, and then look at your shafts. How are they working? Are the treadles connected okay? How do the levers work if it's a table loom? Just ask yourself some of those questions. Next up, the insides of the moving parts. We need to look at the reed and the heddles. Now, in good news, these are things that can be replaced. So if you find that the rest of the loom is in pristine condition, but the heddles look a little rusty or the reed is a little bent, you can replace those parts, so that's no problem. But at least check them out to see what shape they're in so that you can decide if you need to sink a little money into the loom before you use it. And lastly, be sure to take a look at the braking system. Like I said, it's a little tricky to evaluate, especially if there isn't a project on it, but at least look it over and be aware that that is a major part of how your loom is going to function, therefore making it kind of important. So tell me this, friends. Have you ever purchased a used loom? And what shape was it in? Did you have to do a little cleanup or replacement? Let me know in the comments, because I'm always curious to hear about your experience. All right, I hope that was helpful as you go shopping for the next used loom to come into your weaving universe. Have a great week, friends. Happy weaving. Well, hello there. My name is Chris Acton with Acton Creative, and this is A Handwoven Experience. And in today's episode, I'm going to walk you through the process of buying replacement parts for your loom. You see, in an earlier episode, I presented the official used loom buying checklist. And in that episode, I referred to some of the parts of the loom that are critical but easily replaceable, so that if you're considering purchasing a used loom, you can definitely replace some of these parts with no worries at all. So if that's all the loom needs, then you can feel good about making that purchase and then just buying those replacement parts. So in today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about what you have to look for when you're shopping for replacement parts. So let's start with the reed. Now, I'm sitting at the front of the loom. This is the beater bar that moves forward and back here like this. And in the beater bar, you always have a reed. And a reed is a long rectangular frame that has evenly spaced dividers from side to side. And a reed's job is to hold your project at the width and the spacing that you want. So a reed, I've got another one right here, I'll show you. This is what a reed looks like. Literally just a nice rectangle with these little evenly divided spaces. Now, the way that you would identify a reed is first of all by the size of it, the length of it. My loom is a 36-inch loom, which refers to the weaving width, not the exterior width, the weaving width. And so my reeds are both 36 inches. You can buy a narrower reed for your loom, but I always like to encourage you, buy one that's the full width so you have that option. You don't have to use the entire width. Clearly, my project right here is like 5 inches. It's very narrow. So I'm not using nearly all of my 36 inches, but I have that option. And I only need this one reed to be able to do that. So I always encourage you to uncover the width of your loom, which is the weaving width, and then buy reeds that are that size so that you always have the option to use the full width of your loom. Now, for the most part, reeds are almost always about the same height. And unless you have a really unique, homemade, very old loom, this height, whatever the height is of the reeds, this is gonna be fine. So you don't have to worry about that dimension so much, which is a relief because we have other things to think about, such as the spacing. Now, like I said, a reed's job is to hold your project at the width and the spacing that you want. So to do that, we need to think about how the reed is spaced. Now, the space in each, these little spaces right here in between these little tines, these are called dents. So you would identify it by saying this actually is an 8 dent reed. That means if you took a little tape measure and you measured an inch, you would have 8 spaces in that inch. That's the whole idea. And what's lovely about working on a multi-shaft loom like this is that you don't need a ton of reeds. As a matter of fact, I've been weaving for just about 20 years and I've only had 2 reeds for this loom. I have the 12 dent, which I'm using right now, and this is my 8 dent. And that's it, friends. That is all that I've ever used with this loom. Because what I can do is I can skip spaces or double up where I need so that I always have the spacing in the project that I want. So my projects don't have to be 12 or 8 for everything. That would be crazy. I can have a project that is 20 ends in an inch, and I can use either of these reeds to make that happen. So when you're shopping for a reed, then look at the width that fits into your loom, and then pick something that's going to be appropriate for the kind of weaving you want to do. And you may be thinking, okay, Chris, that's way too vague because I just started. If you have to pick one, pick somewhere between an 8, 10, or 12. Those are the ones to start with, honestly. If I really push came to shove, I would say pick a 12 dent. That is the one that I would say to do first. I love my 8 dent as well. If you want to do bigger yarns, fatter yarns in your warp, the spacing in the 8 is very nice. So you only need one though. That's the beauty of it. You can absolutely get a second one if you feel like over time it's going to be helpful, but you just need one. So that becomes a very easy purchase then. The width of the loom plus whatever spacing that you want, you're all set. Next up, we need to talk about heddles. Now, these are your shafts or harnesses, sometimes they're called, in the middle of the loom, right? These frames that lift and lower, see this motion right here? And what you'll have living inside the shafts are these things called heddles. Now, mine are metal here, but they don't have to be. They can be different materials. And if your used loom has heddles in there that maybe are kind of mangled, because that happens over use, and depending on how the loom has been stored, you may need to find some replacement heddles. So let's talk about buying replacement heddles for just a moment. So first of all, you have 2 major camps as far as the material of heddles. There'll be some kind of metal, or there'll be something called Texsolve, which is like a nylon product that is really easy to work with, honestly. So you'll kind of decide which one you want to go with. And there's a couple factors into that decision. First of all, metal is going to be heavier and louder than a Texsolve, but metal is going to slide much easier when you're kind of maneuvering it across the loom. And for some looms, you actually may need the weight of the metal. However, on the flip side, Texsolve is going to be much lighter and much quieter, but it's not nearly as heavy. So that may influence kind of how the loom is working. If you're getting a used loom and it has metal heddles on it, and you find that working with it, that it seems to be too heavy, too loud, try the Texsolve and see if you like that better, and vice versa. Just kind of play around with that. So let's talk about how do you buy more heddles to go into your loom. First of all, even the metal heddles, that's my frame of reference because both my looms have metal heddles. Even when you're just thinking about metal heddles, they come in a couple of different styles. And you'll see some have a little more metal to them. Some are kind of like a wire kind of style that's much kind of finer. Here, these are some replacement ones that I have here. You can kind of see a little closer up what they look like. There's an eye in the middle. Oh, can you see that? There we go. Eye in the middle. And then it has to slide on the rails at the top and the bottom of the shaft here. So one of the major things to know is that when you're buying more replacement heddles, what the size is, because they don't all come in the same height. As you can imagine, that part of the loom might be constructed differently. So here is how you find the dimension. And from what I remember, they can range anywhere from, say, 8.5 to 12.5 inches. That's kind of standard size, somewhere in there. So the idea is that you want to measure from the top, well, let me turn it like this, like the top of the eye here to the bottom here. And that is going to give you the size that you need to slide on the rails. You can also, if you want to look at it differently, measure from the top of the rail here to the bottom of the rail there. The idea is just you want to get that dimension to order the right size heddles. And you make a judgment call. If like these, as you saw these, it's kind of a, it's like a solid body. This is called an inserted eye, just like that. And you can decide if you want something that's even lighter than this, go with a wire heddle, or even try the Texsolve. You can kind of look at the options and see what looks like a good fit for you. Here's the other thing to remember is that for some projects, friends, you're gonna need hundreds of these. So keep that in mind as you are ordering heddles for your project. Depending on what kind of projects you wanna do, if you wanna do projects that are very wide and have very fine yarns, every yarn is gonna need a heddle. So just think about how many you're gonna want. I've had a couple projects where I had to call emergency order of heddles because I was gonna run out. So kind of keep that in mind as well as you're thinking about the heddles that you're ordering to replace or add to the heddles that are already in your loom here. Now, generally, the eye is always gonna be right in the middle. So if you have some heddles on there that are in okay shape and you just wanna add to them, your yarns will more than likely be at the same spot. You can always measure them or ask for dimensions from wherever you are ordering the heddles just to make sure that they're gonna line up. Because you don't want some of these yarns to be up a ½ inch and some to be down. You want them to be on the same kind of level plane there as you're working on your project. So those are the two big important things that you must have as part of a loom that you can easily replace. And hopefully that gave you kind of a little list of things to look for as you are buying replacement parts. With a reed, pretty simple. Figure up your weaving width and then decide what spacing that you want, how many dents per inch. And with the heddles, make sure you're measuring so it's going to fit into your loom, and then you decide what style, what materials and what style is going to be a good fit for your kind of weaving. All right, friends, let me know in the comments if you have been shopping for reeds or heddles anytime in the near future, in the distant past, and let me know how it went. Did you have any problems? Where did you get them from? There's all kinds of online resources, of course, where you can buy these replacement parts, but hopefully the shopping for it was a breeze and it was no problem. And your loom is humming like a well-oiled machine now. All right, friends, have a wonderful week. Happy weaving.